So good evening and welcome, and thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Tonight is the state of the school, and it's going to be an exciting night as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to be exciting to really be able to talk to you about the life of the school. And our goal tonight is really twofold. One, to give you some facts and let you understand some of the way the business of the school works, and two, to give you some stories. We really want to show to you how the school operates on a daily basis, what it looks like, the way it feels for the kids, so that you have a sense of what happens. Because ultimately, we deeply believe in what it is that we create here. And what we create are incredibly grounded students who understand the importance of joy, they understand the importance of community, and they understand the importance of intellect as critical aspects of their being when it comes to being a learner. And from there, we grow these students into be fantastic people and incredibly successful in the future. So as we think about the state of the school, it's important to take some time to remember what we've been through. So there it is. This time last year, you heard from me via video, and you may remember that I was walking through what was soon to be the building where we were just having some wine and cheese. And it's an incredible accomplishment to think that today we're here to be able to experience that space. And really we're going to focus a lot on all the spaces brought to the school tonight. From there, Chris will be able to talk to you about the role of the board, as well as some of the finances of the school to give us a real sense of it. So let's go on a journey together. And let's start by walking through the door here in the Island Center, something that all of your students do, all of your children do each and every day. The youngest of kids come to this building each and every day for some experience. And so this area has really become the heart of our school. And it starts with the library. But before we get to the library, we're going to remember some facts about the school, which can be found in the library. This is going great. So here we are to tell you a few facts before we get into the library about the school. Some things to note about who we are as a school. First off, our enrollment this year is 417 students. We see that we have a good gender balance, 52% male, 48% female. Students of color, 13% of our population. Full and part-time teachers, 80. Average teacher tenure, 15. Sections per grade, 3. Average class size by division in the early childhood, 11. In the lower school, 12. And in the upper school, 14. We're on 40 acres of land. 10% of our budget goes to financial aid. That number will be made more clear to you through Chris as part of his presentation. We have 81 children of alum. It's about 42 different families. And families with Greenville children, 68%. Families with more than one child at Greenville, 68%. And the number of parent volunteers, 112. A number that's actually hard to completely quantify because so many of you are so willing to do so much for us all the time, and it's impossible to not give out an incredible thank you to all of the parents who are willing to help. What stands out to me when I look at these numbers? First and foremost, the average tenure of faculty. Average tenure of 15 years tells you that, one, this must be a good place to work. People want to be here. And two, we have a faculty that is deeply dedicated to the art of teaching. We have a faculty that regularly attends professional development series that we fund for them to be able to think about the best practices when it comes to teaching. We have many teachers each and every year working towards a master's degree that the school helps fund, typically having to do with educational practices, be it special ed or elementary education, or specific to an area, working on a PhD in history. These are things that we help fund to make this a place where teachers want to be, because ultimately the teachers mean so much to us when it comes to your child's education. I'll be talking about that a lot. It's hard not to notice the children alone. Clearly this is a place that people have a love and affection for. And to think about the fact that families choose to be here is an impressive one. It's something that I think speaks volumes towards the school. It isn't just who we are, but it is a part of who we are, and I think something that is great to see. And we see also sections per grade, 3. Having 3 vibrant sections is something that we appreciate and something that we think allows your children to have a varied experience, and something that is important for us. So, so let's move on now to the library. So here we go. So as we understand it, remember this, our construction project started in the imagination of our faculty and parents 4 years ago. And over the last 4 years, we've been able to make that imagination become reality. And the reality is that the spaces that we have really sharpened what we already do and give us the opportunity for even more. So let's hear what our teachers have to say about the building and the library.
Well, being part of the project, now actually seeing it come to life is a really incredible thing, and I'm just so proud of how well thought out and connected everything is, and how it's flowing so well with who we are as a school. Teachers love the amount of light and the openness and the connectedness it brings to the upper school as a whole. Seeing kids of every grade level come through this building every day for production studio, for library, for sciences, for art is really brought the community together in a different way. Not having restrictions on our space opens people's minds to think bigger and to want to do bigger and new things.
Why is a library relevant today with everything at your fingertips? There is so much out there that it's not the library's job to give more information. It is the library's job to help students navigate that information.
That's how you do a grammar check. Just leave everything.
No, I just checked.
Oh, good.
So when this was made available in September, it was like coming home. It is a great space for them to be in, and it's evident. In the morning, they're all in the library.
Having the new space also allowed me to have outward-facing shelves, which is so important for the younger kids who are choosing books based on what a cover looks like, not just looking at a spine. So it's given them more independence in choosing the books that they would like to read. With my K through 2, we're able to connect with the classrooms, not only through stories, but also being able to go online and look at different resources with the smartboard or with their Chromebooks, and really make that connection with the real world. In second grade this year, because of all the new space, we were able to have STEM centers, and we read The Gingerbread Man and talked about different ways that he could get across the river. They all made different boats or rafts or whatever they wanted to. Some made a bridge, and they made different, they took their ideas and kind of brought them to life.
We're not the keepers. We don't keep the information and impart it to the student. They are in charge of getting their own information and figuring out what is it that I need, how do I get it, and is it real? They're going to need that for their world.
Yeah, like that's close around here on Long Island. And then we study about them, and then we do a project about them.
Yeah, and we can like make a book or like a poster.
We made great use of the Mediascape tables. It has the ability to connect everyone's device at the same time. They sat around, put their review sheet up for a test. They discussed the concepts they needed to know. They led the charge.
We don't have opinions. We just give you the news. That's the way it used to be done.
Even libraries are even more relevant today because there's so much information that they can get at any time, 24/7. So we need to give them the tools from the lower grades through college, through adulthood in their profession.
We're really happy about this space. Our department designed it to have a clean, contemporary art gallery feel to it, moving away from the traditional stationary bulletin board, a much more dynamic, exciting space. It's larger. We're able to take these canvases and move them into so many different kinds of configurations. We can pull them together, we can put them horizontally or vertically. It just is so flexible that we are able to do a lot of fun things with that space.
Having your kids be able to learn how to navigate information as a part of a library experience is a critical part of an education. So truly, the notion of feeling comfortable and learning how to navigate information. And then ultimately what you see a lot of, and you'll see a lot of in the 5 different places we're going to see tonight, you're going to see an incredible student engagement. To sit there and watch 3rd grade boys type away and think hard about what it is that they want to learn, especially one of them, is really pretty remarkable. And to see the way that they want to help each other, to think about the ways in the morning that the students are working together to think about their own learning is really quite incredible. Now, I referenced already a little bit about how our teachers are very dedicated to their learning, but we also found ways to let our space show that as well.
The best part about the new flex space is that it's big enough to have multiple grade levels and different classes meet together, know that that space is there just to continue whatever they're working on, and have the time and flexibility to let whatever develop is just a blessing.
Having the CAT Center has provided a space for teachers to be together, to come together, to collaborate, generate new ideas together.
Whatever subject you're involved with the kids in. Are you you're an advisor?
This is something that has been part of a vision here at Greenvale for many years, and with the creation of this new beautiful building in the CAT Center, we've been able to really have this program take off and support teacher growth in a very meaningful and sustainable way.
Like the second you start to put in these requirements and these restrictions, you're taking away from it, I think. You have to be open to the kids that are going to sit there and report card.
We are.
Yeah.
Or at this time of the year, the children have been familiarized with all the lower cat or have been introduced to or something.
I think
In only a few months, we've started to rely on this space for several different kinds of gatherings.
Just said things that weren't right, or do you think she was did a great job at supporting her?
And the school, because I really think that this is such a wonderful school to be a part of. The supports and the framework, so much are there.
The teachers' ideas and the students' ideas have just blossomed.
So hearing about these other spaces, the flex spaces that we have, the thing that really, the aspect of it that really jumps out to me is this notion of collaboration. The ways in which our teachers have jumped into thinking a lot about how they can help your students is incredible. From these meetings, incredible program has been created. Just recently, Mr. Quinlan has helped the 8th graders with a project where he is studying the notion of protest through media and what that looks like from a historical context and today. It was inspired from meeting with all of the other upper school teachers and thinking about what are some messages that we see as important to learn from. And in fact, the little piece that you saw was him talking about media and the way in which it's understood today. And so truly, it's been an inspiration to me to see how our teachers have gotten even more inspired simply by the space we have. But now's the moment for me to pause and to turn it over to Chris Garcia, our board chair, for a minute. Before I do that, I have to take a second to thank Chris, as he has taken over just this year as the new board chair, and really fully embraced a role that he fully didn't know he was getting himself involved in. And works every time. Works every time. It is through Chris's real leadership that we have a board that is better focused than ever. And it is through Chris's leadership that I feel great about the direction and support that all of the board gives to everything that happens at school. So thank you, Chris, and here you go.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Jesse, and I want to thank you for shaving. In preparation for tonight's event, we were talking about which way we would go. Would we go clean shaven or not? And Jesse, recognizing that I can't grow a beard, was kind enough to shave his. I actually think that the reason he shaved his beard was because he was trying to avoid the Zach Galifianakis joke that I really wanted to make, having him sit between two ferns. So I had to start off with two jokes because I'm going to show you a lot of pie charts and I have no videos of kids. And that's basically all I got the last 2 seconds. I'm sorry in advance. But in all seriousness, the videos that Jesse showed you of our children in the new spaces that the Capital Campaign has provided to us, I think is very touching and meaningful. I want to talk a little bit about the business and the practical side of all that you saw in those videos. I think in a very real way, and this is not any credit I deserve, but it's frankly the board members who are longer tenured than I, my prior board chairs, and many, many others who deserve the credit for the responsible and fiscally responsible way that the Capital Campaign was conducted and that the way that construction occurred. In a very real way, it's a microcosm for what I think is a school that is fiscally very, very sound. In connection with the building of our of these new construction, we incurred no debt. We did not have to raid our endowment. We took out a revolving line of credit in order to manage kind of lumpy invoices, which is fully paid off and closed out. We came in under budget, around budget, and we came in on time. And that's all really because I think it was well managed and prudentially well managed by many of the people here, including Jesse, including Melissa Meester, including Jeff, including from development. We've got Lynn up there from the board. It really is a testament to, I think, their fiscal responsibility. We're going to talk a little bit about that more broadly in a second. But I want to tell you that I'm here really just as a representative. I briefly want to introduce you to some of the people that I have the privilege of working with, which is our Board of Trustees, and just tell you 2 seconds about them, because they really do all the hard work. I just get to stand up here and make a couple jokes and go through some slides. We have 21 members in our board currently. Under our bylaws, there could be 24, but we have 21 currently. They include all the folks up there, all of whom, except 3, are voting members. The 3 non-voting members are ex officio members, and that includes the folks in the bottom right-hand corner. As you look at the screen, Jesse, someone named Amy Garcia, and Ario Kane, who are the co-presidents of the PA. We are very fortunate to have 4 new trustees join us this year, who I'm going to call out, who have jumped in and made incredible contributions already. They include Will Morton, John Koski, who's here, Missy Padot is here, and Sharon Crane, and they're terrific. One thing I want to kind of convey tonight, and please tell your friends this, I don't know what image people have of our Board of Trustees, but we're a really nice group of folks. And we really love what we do, and we're really happy to talk about it. So if you have questions about some of the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, you should just come up to us and talk about it, because we want to know what you're thinking and we want to be responsive to you. We are fiduciaries of the school. That means a lot of things. Among other things, we have legal liability for what we do. You're welcome. But it also means that we have a real legal responsibility to make sure that this school is run as best as possible. And we can only really do that if we have your input. So please reach out to us. Just quickly, this is how we're organized. We have a bunch of board committees, all of which are reflected here except one or two, which I didn't realize until we went to press. Buildings and Grounds, Development, the Executive Committee, Faculty and Academic Affairs, Finance, Marketing, Enrollment. We also have a Nominating and Governance Committee, and we have a Committee on Trustees, which is responsible for selecting our trustees or nominating them. Each one of these committees is responsible for planning out a strategic vision. We don't do the job that Jesse does, or that Allison does, or anybody else in the administration. The day-to-day affairs they handle, and they handle beautifully. It's not our job. But we, on a very high level, help set the strategic vision for the school and its mission. We provide oversight, managing risk, things like legal risk and other risk. And finally, and I'm going to really focus today on two of the committees, in particular Development and Finance Committee, and what they do, because they are probably, they're relevant to our most, I think, essential mission, which is ensuring the financial stability of the school. So let's talk about where we are. The good news is, and I promised myself I wouldn't say this, but I will, the state of the school is strong. What I want to talk to you a little about is our budget, what our expenses are, what our revenues are, and how we make it all work. How we make everything that happens day to day happen. So our operating expenses, our budget, our expenses are approximately $16.4 million. That's what it was for fiscal year 2019. And I'm going to count on Jeff, who's our terrific finance chair, to correct me when I mess anything up. You'll see how that expense is incurred. By far, the most substantial part of our budget is salaries and benefits. 70% of it is going directly to our teachers. Part of that is salary. I will tell you a huge part of that is benefits. Like any other business, we have been having to deal with the growth of healthcare costs and other costs. I want to thank Richard Hurt in particular, who's our Chief Financial Officer, for doing the best job we can possibly do to keep that cost down. We're monitoring it with him, and it's not easy, but he's implemented, and Jesse has implemented a number of strategies in the last year to keep those costs down. For example, introducing for the first time, and this is their idea, a health savings account, which is helping us save on healthcare costs. So that's the hugest, or the largest amount, the largest amount of our budget. Also part of our budget, facilities expenses, financial aid, and instructional institutional costs. Instructional institutional, that's the stuff that's going in the classroom. That's the crayons and the markers. Well, that's what we used in my day, or the fancy equipment that we have today. I want to focus on financial aid for 1 second. Financial aid is about 10% of our budget. It's split roughly equally between two different species of financial aid or financial assistance. About $850,000 is pure, what we know as pure financial aid. It goes to students and families of need. About $750,000 of that is what we call tuition remission. Part of the reason that we're able to, I think, maintain and keep our faculty for the long tenures, the 15 years that they stay here on average, is because we compete very well, or as best as possible, with our public schools who are trying to access the same talent. And the way we do that is by providing that our teachers can send their kids here, at least the first two, can send their students here, their children here for free. So that's tuition remission. It's a form of financial aid, part of what goes into that bucket, and how we try to maintain the excellent faculty that we have. So that's the expense side. Let's talk about the revenue side. The first thing I'll note is if you look at the top, it says the revenue is $16.4 million. That's a balanced budget. To the point of being fiscally responsible, we've always had a balanced budget. We don't run deficits and never will. So where are we getting our revenue? Where's the money come from that affords us all that we do and affords us our teachers? In part comes from tuition and fees, 79%. That's the largest bucket, but it's only 79%. Less than 80% of our revenue comes from tuition and fees. Where does the rest of it come from? It in part comes from, we'll take miscellaneous, 5%. What's included in that? Well, things like interest income are included in that. Or if we rent one of our athletic facilities, rental income, that'll go into that category. We have special events. You've gone to these, the Mets event. When we had that raffle back on Parents' Day, that also goes into this category of special events. That provides 3%. But the two biggest other sources of revenue besides tuition and fees are the endowment draw and the annual fund. The annual fund being the single biggest supplement to our $1.15 million a year on average. I'm going to come back and talk about those two things in a little bit. But let's focus on the endowment. I think one of the great stories for this school from the perspective of financial sustainability and fiscal responsibility is our endowment, currently valued at almost $29 million. And you see the line graph here tells the tale of its gradual accretion over time, thanks to the very sound management, I think, of our finance committee, again, led by Jeff Bisconi. They made a critical, I think, and a very good decision back in 2016. We had been serviced, our endowment had been serviced by TIFF, and we transferred to Goldman Sachs in 2016. It's terrific results. We just got some data from Goldman Sachs. In the fourth quarter last year, our endowment went up 4.9%, and I think for the year we were up about 19%, high 18%, which I think is good, sustainable growth for us. The endowment is critically important. It is what is the source of our long-term financial stability, guaranteeing that this school will be here for, if your children are in kindergarten or preschool or nursery, it's guaranteeing that this school is going to be here and be here for them in a robust way for the long term. But I want to talk about this graph for a second. This goes back to the original point of where expenses and revenue come in, and the difference between them. The way that this school operates, our expenses exceed our tuition revenues, okay? It's kind of crazy in some ways. You wouldn't run a business where you go into, your most steady stream of income, which in our case is tuition, is going to always be less there's always going to be more than your revenues, or less than your expenses. But that's the way this is run here, and that's the way every independent school is run. So this is nothing, if you're new to the independent school world, this is the way every independent school is run. My oldest son goes to Trinity in the city, very well-established school, been around since 1723. About the same statistics in terms of how much of their tuition covers their expenses. Why is that the case? Well, part of the independent school model is predicated on giving families an opportunity to pay for their children's education through a tax beneficial way, right? So the concept being, you pay X amount of tuition, it's less than what the cost of sending your child to the school is, and you can make up the difference basically in a tax advantage way by giving to something like the annual fund, which you can declare as get a tax benefit from. So that's the model of the independent school. So I'm going to go back to our revenue sources and talk about the annual fund and endowment draw in this context. So ways in which we give to the school outside of our tuition is by giving to the annual fund and by giving monies to the endowment. That is a critical source for us to make up the difference between what our revenue is from tuition, obviously, and then the expenses. It's very important to the school. And it's meaningful because, of course, what it does is it allows us to afford your children's education, including the faculty. Just bear that in mind. In a perfect world, we would love you all to participate as much as possible in giving, including in the annual fund. for that reason. All of the hard work that goes into managing the school and the hard work that Jesse and his staff does every day, I think you should be proud of the results. And the results are pretty astounding. This is what this is really all about. If you look at what our secondary school placement is, I think for a private school, K-8 school, it really is a nonpareil. It's without equal. If you look at this list of schools, it's pretty impressive where our kids go to boarding schools. I'm talking about other schools in a second. Interestingly, what you should know is that when it comes to boarding schools, 95% of our kids get their first choice. And the vast majority of our kids, when they're enrolling or matriculating in those schools, are placing into 10th grade math and 10th grade language, right? So Jesse is well preparing our schools to be competitive, our students to be competitive getting into and being at these schools. I'm going to take just a moment here to talk personally from the heart. I have an 8th grader, Ryan Garcia, also known as Gecko to those of you who know him, but not my nickname for him. I'm going through the boarding school application process with him right now, which involves, for those of you who know, visits to these schools and spending time with their faculty and their administrators and their admissions folks. I have been struck by how well regarded this school is by the schools up on that chart. Every single admissions director, admissions person I have met, when I say, oh, I'm Chris Garcia, this is my son Ryan, he goes to Greenville, or because I'm encouraging executive functioning, I push him forward, and he says, I'm Ryan Garcia from Greenville. The response is, it's palpable. Oh, Greenville, what an excellent school. Dr. Doherty, we know Dr. Doherty, what a terrific, it is unbelievable how well regarded this school is, which is why we have the results that we have, and it's because it's in very good hands because of Jesse and everybody else in the faculty and the administration. We do similarly well in more local schools, in private and parochial schools locally. You see the list there, everything from Chaminade, my alma mater, to the Trinity School, which is where my son goes now. Really just an outstanding, I think, testament. But as if that isn't good enough or testament enough to the product that we have here, to where your money is going, look at this list of college placement for the Greenville class of 2015. They all go to very fine boarding schools, but he should take credit for the fact that they're getting into these colleges. Because again, the building blocks, the foundation that ultimately sets them up for success, it's happening right here in this school. So I think it's worth taking a moment to thank Jesse, not just for shaving, but for the astounding job he does. And I want to thank personally my fellow board members for really making sure that this school is in a very fiscally sound and good place. And for those of you who think that being on a board of trustees might be something fun or interesting to do, please let us know. We're always looking for people. We work hard, but we have fun too.
Thank you, Chris. Skip it. I got an equal response just this last week from my wife about the beard as well. So I think we're all happy to see it's gone. We're going to go back on our journey for a little bit. We have 3 more spaces to go together on this journey. Again, it's my hope for you to get a feeling. You have some facts, and I want to make sure that you get a feeling as well in terms of what this place is about. The Wonder Lab. First and foremost, you should understand that the term Wonder Lab comes from Greenville. We had a space we had a space left, if you will, for our early childhood, and we talked about what it could be and how it could help us. And they came up with the notion of a Wonder Lab. Let's see what it means.
That's good. Is that okay? I know. Did you want it lowered a little
This unique space is designed intentionally to put children into circumstances where they need to work together.
This is the TV room.
What you see in a Wonder Lab, we have open-ended materials. So these materials you're not necessarily seeing within the classroom. These materials allow children to focus on their creative thinking. These ideas are generated by the children.
It's a dinosaur cake for a baby T-Rex.
The teachers and I sat down to talk about the Wonder Lab. They all wanted to have this incorporated into their day. So we have scheduled a time twice a week for the children, pre-nursery through first grade, to come and use the Wonder Lab. If you see, there's a lot of patterning going on. That's the beginning stages of math. Putting tape on a piece of paper. This is the final product. We get to see how the child looks at this blank sheet of paper and thinks about the next step.
It's a mailbox.
What a parent might see is the final product. What we see is the process.
To think about the level of engagement that you just watched and realize that that is the beginning of incredible learning is a very powerful moment. To understand that literally placing tape on a piece of paper is the beginning of pattern. To think about the ways in which collaboration can be understood at the youngest of age. These are the seeds that allow us to be able to create students who ultimately end up doing work with the Cold Spring Harbor Lab, DNA sequencing, doing DNA sequencing. Literally, there is a direct connection between what's happening in the Wonder Lab with what's happening to the science in 7th and 8th grade. An innovation lab, another term from Greenvale. A space that many schools use to be able to help around robotics. We understand it to do that and even more.
The true function of the Innovation Lab is that it allows students to test in different environments, working with different materials. These two teams are working on 2 different robot designs right now to accomplish the same mission. But the idea is there's more than one way to accomplish a goal. The purpose of the Innovation Lab, it services many different aspects of the educational process, whether it's math, even history by building different kinds of ships, science, and engineering, and art. So it's a, true STEAM environment.
There's multiple phases that can go on in this room. It's based on the materials we make available, and it's kind of free form.
No, it's not working. If we ran the original program, we could see where it goes wrong, and then we can see how to make it better.
Yes!
Talk about student engagement. Oh boy. No, I don't want to use it. There we go. Sorry. Again, the ways in which you can see students helping each other, collaborate, and really think about problem solving in new and creative ways, all critical aspects of today's education. And all of this then gets us to our science labs. And really, candidly, when this all started, we knew that our school had science labs from 1950. And it was time to renovate them. And so as a starting point, we knew that the science labs needed work. And we've walked through this building to see the incredible other aspects that we can gain from this space. And now let's realize what new science labs gives us as well.
Our new science labs are state-of-the-art facilities where they walk into here and they see it's a real science lab. They have every possible resource. Lighting, believe it or not, is an important thing. I was really happy to see the use of natural light in the labs. It stimulates their brain. Cognitively, they do a lot better.
So right now, our 8th graders are doing their 3rd lab for living environment. And they're going to see if their beak and all the different variations of beaks that they have are most fit for either or island. And that basically ties into the unit of evolution, which we're wrapping up right now. This is the competition aspect of natural selection. You're going to go at it at the same time and see who can collect the most seeds in 30 seconds.
Okay, come on guys, let's go. Look, the fish were collected by 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who are in the marine science program.
Wait, this is coral.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is coral.
Definitely a lot more space dedicated to the marine science aspect of our curriculum. It's something that we have open to all students, whether they're in pre-K, nursery, kindergarten, definitely not just an upper school room. And students benefit a lot more from the ability to take care and observe these animals in their environment rather than just learning about them in a book or seeing pictures of them.
Yet another marine biology tank. How many gallons, Kathy? 70 gallons? No, much more than that. It's like 300, I think. A 300-gallon tank that is in the middle of the room. Those tanks that you see on the side are each 50-gallon tanks, so one 300-gallon tank as well. So there again, hearing about students gathering marine life and bringing it in and studying it, and then younger kids getting to learn from it, are all ways that weave together this story of student engagement. In our time here, we realize that it is critical that students are active in their learning. We have created bright, open spaces so that our students can have that space for their learning. Truly, it is incredible to walk through and see kids feel comfortable and be able to be on the ground. For me to be in a meeting and have little kids wave to me through the glass is a wonderful moment because it grounds me and it reminds me that it is all about the students and it's all about giving them what they need. And they get that by virtue of an incredible faculty and staff. People who are dedicated first to your children and then to the material. That's a very important distinction to make, to understand that when we start, we think about the way in which your child learns, and then we think about how we can give them the material. And that allows for us to go so much further with information. It allows for so much more success. It's a tremendous amount of work for teachers to love your children so much, and they love to do it. They know your child's habits. They know, they don't believe everything that your child says about you. They know what's happening in their brains in a way that allows your child to feel safe. And when your child feels safe, he or she is then willing to take more risks. And when you're willing to take more risks, you learn more. It's an equation that works incredibly well for us. We support our faculty, we give them the right spaces, and it allows for appropriate student engagement. Now, student engagement also happens through partnership. And as an institution, we are incredibly proud of our partnership with all of you as parents. We understand that that partnership is critical to your child's learning and critical to the notion of community that we want to build here. We heard a lot about the different spaces that are used, and we've used them for you as well. We've had many coffees, including one this week, for people to come and be together and to ask questions and to learn more about the school. We've brought in speakers on topics like social media to help parents understand norms around social media that could help them. We've also had a parent speaker series on social emotional learning. All ways that we think we have information to share with you because you need to be a part of this as well. And it's inspiring to see your connection to our community, and it's inspiring to see your investment in the community. A perfect example of this is after talking about social media, there was an incredible energy from the parents who came, who really wanted to see ways in which we as an institution could partner with families to understand what's best for kids with social media. And I'm going to say right now, what is best for middle school kids with social media? To not have it. Truly, social media is something that is an incredibly sophisticated, nuanced way of communication that is difficult for a young person to fully understand. That said, a group of kindergarten parents are ready to talk about how they, as kindergarten parents, want to commit to the notion of not having social media within their class in their time at Greenville. We're ready to partner and talk about what that can look like. We want to learn and grow with you. We want to think about the ways in which we as a community can help to learn together about the norms that matter and the things that are going to be facing our children that are going to help them in the future. These are the kind of ways that create a community of learners. We have an incredible backbone here as an institution. Almost 100 years old, we are a place that is well established and well revered within the community and outside of it. We have an incredible board that does an outstanding job in making sure that we are financially prudent and making sure that we are financially viable for now and the future. We have an incredible group of parents who make an utter commitment to their children to be here. And the thing that I see that connects us the most is our commitment to our children. And all of that leads to happy children who are learning all the time. There is nothing better than me walking around each day and seeing the smiles on the faces, even in the midst of hard learning. And there's nothing better than coming back, having graduates come back and telling us how prepared they feel for what it is that they're doing. And there's nothing better than having a nursery student tell me I need to shave. And really, what makes this place magical is connection, and the ways in which all of us are connected, from our teachers to our students to our parents and to the whole community. So, as Chris said, the state of our community right now is very strong, and we couldn't be prouder and feel better about our future. So I'm going to stop, you're going to clap, and then you're going to ask questions.
We actually had a couple submitted electronically by email. I guess actually a couple of them concern the same topic,
yeah.
Which is, you started to address it, but Jesse, I'll channel these folks. Jesse, do we have a social media policy? And if not, why not?
Great question, Chris. Yeah, so we did have questions about social media, and I indicated that first and foremost, we are a school that doesn't allow our children to have devices with them during the day. Kids may bring the devices, but we're very, very good about making sure that they don't have their. We do not have a social media policy that says that kids can't be on social media, and candidly, that is really a place where families need to make choices around what it is that they want. But as said, it is an area that we are ready to work and talk about in terms of what that can look like. Because I do really believe what I said in terms of the fact that social media at too early of an age can be divisive and not helpful. And so thinking about ways that we can partner to do that better can only make this community better for your kids and take that pressure off of children at a young age. And so this is an area of evolution, I would say, within the school. I should say, too, that we also talk a lot about social media, both in different advisory groups as well as in health and wellness classes that happen, and what are right ways to be using it and wrong ways to be using it. And when social media is used inappropriately, we tend to find out, and we have those hard conversations and lead into them with the children that are on.
Any other questions about anything talk about tonight? Anything at all? Anything at all?
Are children allowed to use cell phones or iPads anywhere on campus or on buses?
So the answer is sort of. So yeah, the older kids have phones with them that at the end of the day they might be using to call home and get some get picked up. They will take them if they're going on a away game. They'll often be in their backpacks with them and might be able to text where they are. But we're very strict about not having it during the day, and Mrs. I, our upper school director, will absolutely take it from you, and you'll get it at the end of the day, and the kids know it. I can tell you, spending a lot of time around other schools, we're much better than most any school I've been to when it comes to this notion of not using phones at school. We don't want kids to be kind of stuck in it, and including iWatches even. We did write down and make clear that that's not something you should have because it's basically the same thing. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So what's the next project or projects that in your top priority you want to try and bring?
That's a good question. So the question was, what is the next project or projects I'm going to bring to Greenville? I'm excited to not build anything for a little bit. I think that our what we want to really focus on is continued sharpening of our program to make sure that our students are future ready, which would include partnerships with groups outside of the school. I mentioned one with the Cold Spring Harbor DNA Lab, and quite frankly, that is a relationship we've had for a long time, but we can make stronger. And so we're looking for that. With that said,
yeah, we've come now to the conclusion or the tail end of what was a strategic plan formulated many years ago that included and envisioned in part the capital campaign and construction that you've seen now. I think to Jesse's point, and I think part of the reason why I'm excited to be on the board at this time is because this year has been the year of the big deep breath. We've gotten to the end of a strategic plan, more or less. We've had a very successful capital campaign and construction, and now it's time to now turn and pivot to further strategic planning for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so I think part of what you'll hear from us going forward is engaging with you in the community and thinking about how we put together that next phase of our future and working in conjunction with Jesse and the administration.
so our strategic plan is to create a strategic plan.
That's actually, it's just a plan to create the strategic plan. There's nothing strategic about it.
It's relatively strategic to think about strategy.
Yeah, strategery.
Yeah, okay, so question about food, and am I happy? And the answer is yes. We did make a strategic change last year. We did last year partner with an outside organization to help with their food, and we did not find that partnership to be strong enough, that they really weren't giving us all that we wanted. So we reorganized our kitchen in a whole new way with a clear focus on a menu that allows for our students to have healthy options, and with the critical word being options. So in any given meal, you can find a main dish as well as a sandwich bar, as well as a salad bar, as well as a soup. So that the kids have the ability for some choice, and we're working on helping them to understand choice. At the same time, we've thought a lot about where our food comes from and making sure that we're getting the best food that we can. Have to thank Hannah Robinson, who has helped as a consultant to think about where the source of our food comes from. And we've come up with a rotation, and it's actually a relatively tight rotation. It's about a 3-week rotation of meals. And we look for feedback because we only do 3 weeks worth of meals. We want to make sure that every meal really counts. and that kids are enjoying them. So we've actually are soliciting feedback from students. Some of it is hilarious. You know, some kids want sushi, some kids want us to have spicy wings from a particular store that is delivered. I think I know who wrote that. But at the same time, even the student government of the upper schools helped think about this so that there's some level of engagement. Our goal is clear. We want our kids to have healthy options and also to learn a little bit about food. And I'll say one more thing. We, with our kindergarten, we've piloted a program this year that has been highly successful, where each month we introduce the children of kindergarten to a seasonal food and have a deep understanding of it. I witnessed the month of October, which was carrots. Maybe it was November. It was October, which is carrots, and carrots are seasonal in October. The children got to learn about carrots, see what they were like, and then saw 12 different preparations of carrots that they got to experience and eat. You know, from having carrot juice to having raw carrots to having other carrots and different colored carrots and understanding the texture. And every child in that room ate at least 3 different types of carrots during this experience and left with some degree of excitement about it. And we just did grains this last month, and this introduction is really important in terms of education when it comes to thinking about food. So, so I'd say that we've seen great evolution with our food, and don't believe everything you hear.
Just to underscore, you know, this is going to be, evolution is a good word. Yeah. It's going to keep evolving. Yeah. What we learn about food and our understanding of it and how to, you know, inculcate our children with good food values and make sure that they're getting healthy, nutritious lunches. It's a science that's constantly evolving. I think the thing I would just want to underscore is that there are a lot of people paying attention to this and working really hard. And, you know, not every meal is going to be perfect, but we're really, I think, striving to improve and are improving greatly. You know, my children, if you could serve cheeseburgers every day, they'd be happy, and I don't think they're happy with anything else. But that's just my kids. But we'll get it right for all the kids.
The only other thing I'd say about it is that I've never met a kid who doesn't come home and say he or she is starving. Like, no matter what, that's the default. I'm starving. So it's not because we aren't feeding them; they're just starving.
Other questions? Thoughts?
Let me make just one. So outside of fundraising, and clearly fundraising is an important responsibility that of parents, what are some specific ways in which parents can better support you in the mission of the school?
That's a great question. Our best marketing is word of mouth. We know that time and again we'll have people who come through the door and say, I've met blah 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 family and they're really happy here, and so I want to learn more. And as you saw from this, admissions is a critical aspect, enrollment is a critical aspect of the school. Enrollment includes kids coming back. So we think about retention, and then we think about admissions. Each year you consider that we graduate the class and then we fill in more, and we look at those numbers and think about where they are. And we see it as imperative to constantly be thinking about how we can expand and make sure that we are bringing more and more people in, because it's become a tighter and tighter market. Now, I'll be totally upfront to tell you that we've done well, but we've done well against a national trend that is a downward one when it comes to admissions, especially with lower schools. And so we know that we have to be all the more focused on thinking about ways to bring students in, and work very hard at that with excellent marketing and the work that Pat and Brianne do in admissions. And we know that you can help us by simply telling people what I hope is a great experience for you.
Yeah, look, I think we are the best kept secret on Long Island, maybe in New York, maybe on the Eastern Seaboard, maybe the whole world. I think we're the best kept secret. People don't know us, and I think that, it would be useful for people to know it. But the only thing I would add to this is, for you folks, as families here, it's an opportunity for you. It's just another opportunity for you to create the school that you want by bringing to the attention families that you know are the right fit for the school, have the same values, want their children to be raised and educated in the Greenville way. So I think that is an important way to contribute. Yep.
And two other things. Talking to us is fantastic. We love to know where you are and giving us feedback. And being involved. We have a big event coming up on February 8th with the Winter Gala, and that is an event that is a fundraising event. Wow. It is not just a night for the school to make money. It is a night for us to be together as a community. We work hard to make this a community event so that we have fun together. Because knowing each other as people is what makes the community strong. And so having fun together is important. And it's a big night. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And why is it such a big night, Jesse? Let me think about this. What makes that night so special? You said February 8th? Is that the day?
February 8th.
Yeah. That's a day. Let's see, what happens on February 8th? Maybe, were you born on February 8th?
I was born on February 8th, yes. We're having the party
Jesse,
on my birthday.
It's kind of pathetic to set it on the day of your birthday just because you want to have a lot of people show up and celebrate.
I'll do anything. It's my party and I can crack away. Yes.
Granted, we're new parents, so we may be missing the tenor, the tempo of the communication. It seems like there's a barrage of communication on things that are not necessarily less important, but less meaningful to specific grades, and a very definite, infrequent amount of communication with things that might be grade or event specific. So it just seems to be a disconnect. Today, I hate to talk about social media, but today we're all used to being flashed continually for things that are important to us, and there may be an expectation that we're going out to the website to see all that's going on. Quite frankly, I don't really think about your website on a regular basis to see what's going on, and I would like to see more communication that is not only grade specific but community specific. I'm not as interested in what necessarily.
Yeah. So thank you, and I think that finding modes of communication is important. We've done a couple of surveys, and we always say we want to learn more, but we don't want to hear more. And finding that balance is always right. I'll tell you that one avenue that we are using now a little bit more is the app, and you can actually set up the app to be grade specific, so that you can get flashes for things directly for you in that grade. And we regularly review in terms of thinking about trying to communicate appropriately. There is some degree, especially when your child is younger, there's some degree of conversation when it comes to communication, and then there's some degree of formal communication. And we're always looking to balance it, but it's helpful to constantly review that. So thank you. Yeah.
You have a student count of 417, and in terms of development and size constraints, what's your target?
So we would call ourselves at 417 fully enrolled, and we do currently have an average of 3 sections per grade. We'd like to be around 417, if not a little bit bigger in the future. So it's actually a really good question, and a question that we're talking more about in terms of at the board level, in terms of is there an actual target number, but we've been very happy with the size, kind of where it is, and we've gone as much as 490 students before my time, and in my time from like 430 to 417. So there's been some fluctuation over the years. Does that answer?
Any other questions? Comments? Snide remarks? All right.
There is more wine. I think.
Unless you did a good job before you walked in.
Yes, if you drank all the wine, that's impressive. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.